All righty. Thank you very much. Welcome to this regular council meeting held on 6:30 on November 12th, 2025. Kisikuket, we acknowledge that the city of Fernie is located within Kukanamakis, the unceded territory of Yaka-Akikliyet First Nation. We recognize that we live and work within their vast lands. Akunahunak are from Yaka-Akikliyet and are members of the Ktunaxa-speaking peoples of British Columbia, Idaho, and Montana. So tonight, a little bit different. I'm the deputy mayor, and I'll be running the meeting tonight. And Mayor Milligan is away. So first off, we have a new person at our table. If you're looking at the screen, I believe she's going to get promoted right away. Probably no pressure. I'll just start talking. Oh, there we go. Wait. There it comes. There we are. Perfect. Okay, on behalf of council, I'm very pleased to welcome Pari Parmar as our youth councillor for the 2025-2026 term. This is Pari's first council meeting, so welcome. Pari brings leadership, experience, energy, and a real passion for community involvement, and we're excited to hear the youth perspective she brings to our discussions. Pari is Fernie's 7th youth councillor, a role created in 2018 to ensure young people have a genuine voice at the council table. Your perspective, yes, yours, represents what youth in our community are actually experiencing today, helping ensure our decisions reflect the Fernie of the next generation. We encourage you to ask questions, speak up, and challenge us when something doesn't make sense from a youth perspective. Some meetings and reports can be long, but city staff and council are here to support you. Councillor Hamilton will serve as our youth council mentor. So mentor, not mental. And any of us are happy to chat if you have questions. Thank you for stepping forward and putting your hand up for public service. We're looking forward to working with you and hearing your insights on how to make Fernie an even better place for all of us. And we have something a little special still in the plastic right here. We have a City of Fernie pin just for you. So you can open that up right away or later, whatever you want to do. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so I will call this meeting to order at, what is it, 6:34 p.m. And I will get an approval of agenda and late items, please. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Adia Kelly, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, passed. This is harder than I thought it was going to be. Okay, item 4.1, adoption of the minutes. Minutes of the October 28th, 2025 regular meeting. Staff recommendation is that the minutes of the October 28th, 2025 regular meeting be adopted. Or was that your line? I'm not sure. This is, am I okay? Am I doing all right? I'm going to ask for a mover. Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Shoesmith. We have a vote on this. All in favor? Great, unanimous. Page 1, done. Item 4.2, minutes of the October 29th, 2025 special meeting. The minutes of the October 29th, 2025 special meeting be adopted. I'm going to ask for a mover. That's Councillor Adia Kelly. Councillor Hamilton again. All in favor? Unanimous. And lastly, 4.3, minutes of the October 30th, 2025 special meeting. Minutes of the October 30th, 2025 special meeting be adopted. Mover, Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Adia Kelly, seconded. All in favor? Excellent. Okay, so we're going to open the floor to public participation. We're going to invite the public in attendance or participating electronically who wish to comment on items listed on the meeting agenda in accordance with section 3.7.3 of the procedure bylaw to address council, except Speakers must not address council regarding a matter for which a public hearing must be held or has been held pursuant to the Local Government Act prior to the council's consideration of the matter or adoption of the bylaw. Speakers must not address council regarding a permit for which public notice must be given or has been given pursuant to the Local Government Act prior to council's consideration of the issuance of the permit. And a speaker may only address council for a maximum of 3 minutes. We have a special set of cards here that are red and yellow. And what are they? Red? Yeah, okay, time's up. There it is. So Ms. Lavinia, Ms. McElwee will have the cards ready for you as well, Mel. Speakers are asked to state their full name and community of residence. So we have one person on the speaking list.
That's correct, Deputy Mayor. Our first speaker is Melanie Rigglesworth.
Good evening, Your Worship, City of Fernie, amazing councillors and city staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Fernie Trails Alliance. As per our previous presentation, we continue to request tonight annual support in the amount of $55,000. This is a modest investment that delivers substantial community, economic, and environmental returns. And speaking with Chief Financial Officer Burdett today, a $100,000 increase in taxes is about a 1% increase. I'm requesting about a 0.55%, which equates to about $15. Thank you, Bryn, with the calculation. $15 per person. That's what the FTA sells their day passes for. The FTA maintains and manages over 370 kilometers of non-motorized trails across multiple landowners in all seasons. These trails are the backbone of Fernie's recreation economy, drawing visitors, supporting local businesses, and providing free year-round access for residents of all ages. Whether it's a morning dog walk, an after-school ride, or a weekend hike with friends, or the countless events hosted on the trails, these trails are central to Fernie's quality of life and identity. Our trail crew, volunteers, and my team work tirelessly to keep this network safe, sustainable, fun, and accessible. But with rising maintenance costs, heavier use, and more extreme weather events, this work is no longer sustainable on volunteer hours and grants alone. Reliable municipal funding would provide critical support for the ongoing operation of the FTA. Grants provide money for building new trails, but they don't provide funds for maintaining trails. These funds would allow the FTA to do the following: maintain critical infrastructure such as trail tread, bridges, boardwalks, technical trail features, and signage. Retain a skilled trail crew that would be paid a living wage to meet WorkSafe and Rec Sites and Trails BC standards. Leverage other funding, since confirmed city support strengthens every grant application we submit. Every dollar you contribute stays local, supporting wages, materials, and partnerships that enhance Fernie's livability and reputation as a world-class destination and place to live. We see this as a partnership, the city investing in an organization that delivers exceptional value to residents and the broader community. Together, we can ensure that Fernie's trails remain safe, inclusive, and resilient for generations to come. We know people appreciate the FTA and the trails. We hear it from users all the time. And we were even just recently awarded the Community Tourism Achievement Award and Community Group of the Year. It is not realistic for us to do what is expected of such a world-class destination without the financial support of the City of Fernie. Thank you for continued support and for recognizing that trails are not just amenities, they are essential community infrastructure. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ms. Wigglesworth. Ms. Fesco, do we have anybody online who is interested in being part of the public participation? Okay. Okay, so with that, we are going to move into the committee of the whole. And I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder that we move into committee of the whole. Councillor Schutt, Councillor Adia-Kelly, all in favor? Unanimous? Okay, great. And so I think we have our first report is from our Director of Finance, Mr. Burdett.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Nixon. Good evening, Council, members of the public. Tonight, I have some slides to introduce this year's budget process. This is the third year I've brought forward an introductory report like this for Council, which typically has included guidelines that staff uses to compile costs and add up revenues and then bring back for council's consideration in the form of a tax increase required to balance the budget. The guidelines have changed a bit this year. I felt the old ones, while providing important foundational direction, at times felt maybe a little too high level. The old guidelines generally assumed that service levels and staffing levels and other cost drivers would remain the same. And while that may still be the case this year, we wanted to provide a report introducing the budget that attempts to engage with the public and council in a more specific way that's tied to our current challenges as opposed to that past high-level way. So how we started doing this is senior leadership team met several times to talk about the city's constraints and risks, particularly if we do continue with the same level of staffing and service levels for the 2026 budget cycle. There were many things brought to the table at these meetings, but collectively the team landed on 5 major items that are of the highest risk to the city. These risks and gaps in capacity underscore the need to align 2026 budget priorities with organizational sustainability. The first major risk and constraint is development pressures and housing demands that our community faces. The recently updated housing needs report points to a need to increase capacity to support building residential units. All types of development activity continue to increase, and this impacts multiple departments. It impacts planning and development services, impacts engineering and public works, both with development reviews and the installation and maintenance of new infrastructure. Our utility teams, water and sewer, staffing. Staffing has improved over the last few years, but remains insufficient for both growth and current system maintenance, which I'll get into more later. Secondly, our business systems, while improving, still require significant updates to meet provincial and federal standards. We have a lot of legacy fragmented systems that are outdated and don't necessarily work well together. There's also external requirements for new systems like a new 911 system that adds to the pressure in this area. Thirdly, specific to utilities, water and sewer, the water team specifically is understaffed, which is creating a risk in service delivery for one of our core services. We have 3 operators in that department, and increasing complexity in the system and regulatory requirements creates a higher frequency of emerging issues that require immediate attention. When a team of 3 is forced to react to these types of issues more frequently, that results in the preventative maintenance backlog only getting bigger. Fourth, as council is aware, the one other major opportunity for funding outside of property tax is grants. And leadership team believes the city is missing opportunity to pursue grants, but it's not just to pursue grants. It's also a lack of capacity to take on additional projects if we are successful in securing a grant. Some major projects time nicely with a grant, but there are grants that come up for projects that aren't necessarily on our current year plan. So we're finding that we're lacking in flexibility to pursue grants and manage projects in those situations. And fifth and last, the city has historically relied on seasonal staffing models, which is no longer functioning optimally because demand has increased. Also, typically our staff budget has only included our base staff levels. So when someone takes time off or is sick, there's no money to replace that person. Also, our corporate functions, since the previous director of corporate admin left, has been in a largely acting state since that time. We've had increased comms and legislative support, but our general admin and HR support is in flux while this temporary state continues.
Sorry, Director Burdett, Councillor Hamilton has a question.
Thank you. Apologies for interrupting your flow there. With the comment around the seasonality, can you expand upon that? That was something I read in the report, but I wasn't quite sure what you meant on that topic.
Sure, Director Logan would be happy to.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, to clarify, seasonal workload seems to fluctuate in the city of Fernie. When I first got here, 2018, It's changed quite a bit since then. I'll use the example of special events. So it's the same staff that operates the arena that would set up and assist for special events. So with more events taking place in shoulder season, it's that same staff who is in the arena working full time to do the 6 till 1 at night coverage for our user groups in the arena that have to double up the work essentially for that month and a half where we have a transition time. Also just with maintenance and facilities and contributing to some of the capital projects, we're spread pretty thin when it comes down to events. And also just with the lack of clear policy or service levels defined, we find ourselves maybe walking the line of too much service in one area, not enough in another. So balancing that out, and one of the things that's a solution to that problem is staffing when people are off on vacation or sick or use bank time. So when we're without that person, especially in the seasonal months, it's like losing a team member and not replacing it with somebody. So something has to give there. And usually it's not a service like special events. It's a maintenance item that takes a backseat to more pressing issues or like a service we're providing to a user. That helps.
Thank you.
Councillor Adia Kelly.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just to clarify before Director Logan maybe goes, are we just talking seasonality in Parks and Rec, or what about Public Works? As I know, we also employ some seasonal folks there. So are we strictly talking parks when we are talking about the seasonal worker problem, or is it more widespread?
I would say, so thank you for the question. I would say specific say to snow clearing, we have a pretty well-defined policy with service level, and we're staffed up for that. We have seasonal staff for that. But I would say it's not unique just to the Parks, Facilities and Recreation Department when it comes to coverage for full-time staff for holidays, bank time, sick days, those types of things. The water crew, for example, of 3 would likely go without a replacement unless there's a qualified operator in training or someone else that could fill in for that work. So they also feel the pinch on that side of things when it comes to regular employees away and the lack of funds or staff to cover those employees.
Just another little point of clarification, and this might actually be for Mr. Bornowski or Ms. Neal in HR capacity. The terms of the collective bargaining agreement, if we were to employ backfill in does it have to be permanent full-time FTEs? Is there auxiliary ability? And if we did hire auxiliaries, does that give others current staff opportunities to train in another area or something like that?
Good evening. Thank you. Yes, our collective agreement for QP staff in particular does allow for casuals. We've revamped our casual program where historically they were brought in to cover for front counter and finance functions. Whereas over the course of the last few years, we've actually been providing more training and opportunities in other departments to provide that coverage for vacations. The restrictions in the collective agreement, in the new collective agreement, do limit their ability to only work for 90 days in a 12-month period. And what was the second part? Sorry.
Thanks, Ms. Neal. I was just wondering about how it worked with the collective bargaining agreement, what restrictions there would be on auxiliaries. You know, some bargaining agreements allow for an as and when needed. Some are more prescriptive. So 90 days in a 12-month period.
Yeah, and it does also specify, like during peak periods, provide some examples of that. But to Mr. Logan's point, if someone goes on an extended leave, like a short-term disability leave, then you quickly burn through those 90-day provisions, which we do currently have 5 casuals right now who are trained to cover for other administrative positions.
Thank you.
Mr. Bornowski?
Thank you. If I can add just one note, the casuals, as Ms. Neal noted, were typically brought in to cover finance during tax time to provide extra backfill. As part of council's strategic plan, looking at organizational excellence and development, the cross-training and development of like a cross-trained auxiliary pool that could support multiple departments was a priority that we advanced. And what it does is it breaks down silos or barriers between multiple departments, because someone's going to work in planning, they're going to work in engineering or public works, they're going to work in finance and corporate administration. And the administrative clerks, clerical staff, and the casuals who do then provide that backflow or cross coverage really get an exposure to where there are opportunities to improve our processes or our systems. And so we've seen some really great employees develop through the casual program and become part-time, more fully utilized, regular, different types of employees that we've engaged. So it's just an initiative through corporate administration and finance and HR that I'm quite proud of. I think they've done a good job there.
Councillor Adia Kelly?
Thanks very much, CAO. Could maybe then, when we get into the more granular pieces of budget, will staff bring forward recommendations, like say maybe we're looking at like a 0.5 FTE, a full-time FTE, a 3/4 time FTE for certain things that you feel have gaps in, so that we can then cost out what staffing would look like?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Adia Kelly. To that point, we attempted to define these risk areas, not necessarily as offering solutions, but just to guide how we drafted these guidelines that I'm about to get into. And then given council's feedback tonight, we're going to take those guidelines away and present options for council to consider in future budget meetings, as you just said. Yeah. So again, after the leadership team agreed on these 5 risk areas, we revisited the 10 guidelines from the last 2 years, noticed that a lot of the old guidelines from those 2 years are very much interconnected. So then we attempted to design new guidelines for council's consideration that felt to us a little more useful for both the leadership team and hopefully council for tonight's discussion. So we've come up with 7 guidelines that we intend to use to compile this year's budget data. First one, and these are in no particular order, but first one is engagement with the public. Engagement will be conducted early and throughout the budget process to support more informed conversations with council. The city recently conducted a budget guidelines survey that closed on November 3rd. We received 116 responses. Most respondents said their top priority is maintaining reliable services while planning responsibly for the future, followed closely by investing in more infrastructure and community improvements, even if that meant higher taxes or fees. The key takeaways were prioritize core infrastructure and services. The people want sustainable revenue and taxation, fiscal responsibility, and transparency and accountability. The more detailed results of this survey are also attached to your report and the agenda package. We also talked internally about the lower attendance of our budget open houses the last few years, and wanted to try something different this year, which we're calling it bringing the budget to where the people are instead of inviting them to come to us. So myself and our comms manager thought that setting up a booth at the library, grocery store, maybe the arena for a Ghost Rider game, the aquatic center, or some other ideas would be a good spot to talk to people and get some additional feedback as we go through this budget process. Guideline 2 is to protect our core service continuity first. This means prioritizing the maintenance and stabilization of essential service delivery, including maintaining and replacing our infrastructure, focusing on development services, focusing on our water and sewer utilities, complying with our legislative obligations, also managing our data and records responsibly and safely. The next guideline is to fund growth with growth. An example of this would be non-market change, which is the amount of new taxation arising from construction during the year. Historically, the city has used this amount to lessen the burden on the current taxpayer. Some municipalities in BC do it this way. Others put that money towards something else, whether it's to help with a big new project or to put it in a reserve for future use. But we are looking to utilize these funds to support a more sustainable service. I do have some other things to say about this guideline, but I will come back to it when I get to the guideline on reserves, as that guideline is also linked with this one. Guideline 4 is continuing to align our capacity with the council strategic plan. Council specifically or recently had a check-in in October and specifically highlighted 3 of the objectives, goals, and strategies listed here that they believe are the most important. I actually started working on this report before that check-in that council did, and I think it's nice that it highlights some alignment here and what staff and council believe the focus should be on, namely the work around permitting and development services ties in with our second guideline, as well as our long-term asset management plans. Guideline 5 is for council through the budget process to establish a policy for funding reserves. There's been a lot of discussion around reserves in every budget cycle since I've been at the city. And while council has sometimes increased the tax rate to fund reserves, staff believes the best way going forward is to have this in a policy to guide how the numbers behind reserve contributions are presented to council. I mentioned in guideline 3, which was fund growth with growth, that I'd have more to say about that guideline. And these two are connected. So to try to explain this, as our city grows, that growth requires new infrastructure, whether it's roads, water and sewer infrastructure, parks, etc. That new infrastructure needs to be maintained and replaced. The major maintenance and replacement is typically done with reserve funds. However, our contributions to reserves has not increased in the last 5 years to reflect both new infrastructure and also recent large inflationary spikes. We've also recently seen firsthand the impacts of underfunded reserve funds with the fire hall, other unfunded projects like the CNL right-of-way, the upcoming utility upgrades that are necessary. And so staff is recommending that all new revenue that comes to the city, the majority of which is from new construction, increases to the mine tax fund, and increased fees be split to be put towards current services, offsetting the current taxpayer burden and saving for the future. Until this year, as I said, new revenue was typically just used to balance the budget and reduce the impact to current taxpayers. So for some numbers, the idea here is that non-market change, if it's 150,000 in a year, we would put a percentage of that back into growing development services, which directly services new home development. We take a percentage of that to put into reserves to save for the future, and then a percentage of that to offset the burden of regular inflationary changes on the current tax base of the city. Guideline 6 is that the recommended addition of staff should be directly connected to advancing council strategic plan, reaching core service sustainability, a service level increase required to comply with legislative requirements, or an increase in asset inventory that the city has to manage. And the last guideline, the 7th, first, just some corrections to some terminology on the table on page 23 of your agenda. I call it the Fernie Chamber of Commerce, but that's not accurate. We have an agreement with the chamber to provide a visitor information center, so that's what that annual operating funding is for. The Fernie Arts Council should say Fernie and District Arts Council, and Elk Valley Economic Development should say Fernie Economic Development. And then as for the content in that guideline, community partner funding levels will remain similar to 2025, except for those that have agreements already in place that have some sort of funding increase. The library and Fernie and District Historical Society, or the museum, have formally requested to council an increase for 2026. We also received 2 new requests for funding for 2026. The Fernie Chamber of Commerce, presented in October, requesting $60,000 annually for 3 years to fund a portion of a position that would develop and implement economic development within Fernie. The city and Fernie Chamber of Commerce has formally applied for a grant for $50,000 per year for 3 years, but the results of that grant application will not be available until March 2026. Secondly, as council heard earlier, Fernie Trails Alliance has asked to be a community partner with the city and is requesting $55,000 per year. As for the budget schedule, there are some notable changes this year. Given the work we've put into our water and sewer utilities, specifically with the recent IICP update that council saw a few meetings ago, and the staffing challenges specifically in water that I touched on earlier, staff believe it would be of benefit to separate the water and sewer presentations this year and present those earlier for council. The reason for separating these two budgets specifically is that the bylaw that authorizes the city to collect these fees is different from the property tax bylaw. The utility fee bylaw needs to be adopted by end of January for updated rates to come into effect in time for the Q1 2026 billing cycle. Those rates are not at all tied to property tax rates, so the water and sewer rates has no impact on property tax. The next change, in an effort to create a little more sufficient time and reduce the possibility of some February burnout with too many evening meetings, we are going to have a daytime budget meeting with council. This has been done in the past, and these meetings, as per a normal council meeting, will be open to the public and streamed online. And as I discussed already in guideline number 1, staff will propose some dates to set up a booth in some busy areas of town to discuss the budget with public. And in closing, staff will take these 7 proposed guidelines and also incorporate any additional council feedback and direction from tonight into the initial prep for the 2026 budget process. Next steps will include 2 reports in relation to budget on December 9th. The water sewer budget will have an initial presentation on the 9th, and then we'll have our 2025 budget year 2 amendments, which will be looking at some higher impact capital purchases that were on the year 2 plan in 2025 for council to review so that we can begin the purchasing process as early as possible. Thank you. Happy to answer questions.
Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. Brain went blank for a second, forgot my question, but with regards to the idea of kind of bringing the budget to the public, in years past, we have talked a lot about some different online tools where members of the public can go to a website, log in, whatever, and adjust dials to see what impacts those might have. And I'm just curious if we've had any progress on finding those tools or looking at what those subscription costs might be.
If I can through to council, Ms. Fetzko has just confirmed we have a RFP or RFQ out presently because our contract with the vendor of Let's Talk Fernie, our current engagement platform, is up. And so we're determining whether we renew with Let's Talk or look at a different platform. A number of those other platforms come with that service included at a very similar cost. We're in the midst of that process, and so we just have to figure out what that transition looks like and if we can implement it in time for this budget. But there should not be an additional cost for that subscription.
Councillor Shoesmith or Councillor Nadia Kelly. Okay, thank you.
You sure did.
Oh, you were first.
Thanks, Your Worship. One of the things that came up at the OCP that I'd like to see us try and do if you do some of those engagement boosts was the monopoly money in the buckets, which is not quite as sophisticated as changing those dials. But if you give people X amount of monopoly money and say, okay, where do you want us to spend it? That was really quite effective at the OCP engagement. So that suggestion. And thank you. I was glad to see the survey this year because I did bring it up last year. That's something that Cranbrook's been doing for a couple of years now. So thank you to staff for doing that. 116 responses isn't maybe as fulsome as we would have liked, Your Worship, but it gives us some idea at least. And will we do another BBB, CFO?
Thanks, Councillor Nadia Kelly. I haven't reached out to the chamber yet about that, but I will update you as soon as I learn more.
Councillor Shoesmith.
Thank you. Temporary Mayor Nixon, acting Mayor Nixon, I suppose. There's a bit to like here, definitely. You know, I like the idea of going to where the people are. That's pretty commendable. I'm glad you guys are willing to undertake that as a project and do that job. I like the idea of taking on the the sewage and water as a separate item. I think that's excellent. And yeah, I didn't realize we only had three water guys. I mean, Doug's practically 2 people just all by himself, but well, he does a lot. That's what I mean. Come on. But it would be nice to see them get some help as well.
Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. You know, reading through the report, I personally don't see anything that I would change as far as guidelines. I certainly feel that the work that staff has done to blend the council strategic check-in with the emerging priorities and the fiscal realities that we're facing as an organization are well summarized in this report. And I think I have the sense that staff understand the constraints and are going to do the best that they can. One question that does come to mind looking at the guidelines and the responses from our initial public survey, two of the topics were fiscal responsibility and efficiency and transparency and accountability. I hear those topics all the time, and I'm just wondering to what level of granularity some of those responses came back as, or are they very hot? Like, I guess what I'm asking in the response, was there specific solutions that were being proposed, or was this just talking points that were brought up?
Your worship, our manager, who's not at this meeting, conducted a lot of that review. I'd like to bring that information back to you. I think some of the specifics were definitely from specific points of view on exactly where people wanted to see some reductions. I would offer that we'll provide that, and we can provide the raw text to council as well, just to make sure that you see those and don't have to sort of navigate through the summary.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that.
Okay, unless, does anybody have anything else they want to discuss in this? I mean, I know that, you know, we're having a town hall, but usually that's just, doesn't include staff. I think it'll probably be too quick to have slides ready for the town hall or that sort of stuff. Anyways, it just was going through my head. I spoke that out loud. That was a mistake. Sorry. Okay. I guess if there's anything else? I mean, are we going to see, we'll see in the budget, we'll see what these permutations are when it comes to the contribution for the discretionary amounts for the economic development as well as the FTA. We'll see that in the budget itself, like giving us an option of a choose your own adventure sort of an idea. Is that, will that be possible as well?
Yes, Deputy Mayor Nixon. We will certainly have those, you know, levers or whatever you want to call them for council to explore. We are very early still in compiling all the numbers. So to answer your other town hall question, I wish the numbers were ready, but they're not yet. And it will take a solid month and a half now for staff to do all the meetings and fill out the spreadsheets and compile everything.
Okay, awesome. This is super exciting. Oh, Councillor Adia Kelly.
Thanks, your worship, your temporary worship, I guess. Do we know what our inflationary sort of hit is this year, CFO?
Well, it's not off the top of my head, but I do have the Q3 report. I think it's coming next week, which will have the key inflationary drivers up till Q3 included as part of that report. So that's coming. And then And then as the year closes, we'll be able to dial that down, even more for council as we get into budget in more detail.
Yeah, good, thanks, because it's not the same as CPI for the city. So just wanted to make that distinction for folks.
Yeah, CPI, we kind of use that just as a general guidepost, but the goods that we purchase are far different from that
Mhm.
basket, and they don't have a basket specifically for municipalities. So we try and gauge, like construction materials and things like that as our main cost drivers.
To sort of aggregate our own from evidence.
Right, yeah.
Councillor Hamilton.
You just, I guess a quick question to staff. How granular do you want us to get with the direction at this stage and feedback for the guidelines? Like, are you just looking for, the guidelines that we've proposed here, the 7 new ones are good enough, or do you want us to get down and give you some direction around reserve contributions and funding additional groups, or is that going to come back at a future meeting?
My response to that would be, I am open anytime between now and mid to late February for council ideas or requests for information that they'd like to see. One thing that comes to mind from last year is there was a lot of talk around staff training, but particularly late in the process. And my read on the situation is that it maybe made council feel a bit rushed, or they didn't have the time to bring that up earlier. So if there's something like that now that you would like me to work on pulling some data on over the next month and a half, or if something comes to you while you're asleep at 4 a.m, you can send me an email and I'll make sure that all of council sees that question and the public during the next budget meeting. So anytime really between now and the next 3 months for sure. Yeah.
That's an email, not a text. Oh, Councillor, or sorry, CAO Poranowski.
Thank you. Through to council. As an example, if you have guidelines, right now we're running with the assumption based on council's strategic plan, based on previous dialogues, that what we're looking at is the partnering agreements and including in our initial modeling and in our partnership agreement drafting and development for renewals, that there are some increases coming. And so as an example, we're renegotiating for a extension with the Fernie District Hotel or Historical Society. Apologies. We have the library there. We have the extension from the Chamber, as the Chamber and Tourism Fernie work collaboratively on visitor information services. So there's a number, as always happens, there's a number of continually live discussions on negotiations and shared service agreements or partnering agreements. And so any guidance you provide on those, the earlier the better. If council, as you know, if there's an absolute freeze or if there's an appetite for an increase, if it's based on something, I'm happy to receive those, or happy just to understand from this dialogue that you're looking forward to seeing through the budget process what increases would be. That to me also says you're not willing at this point to commit to budget increases being a mandatory part of that budget, and the rest gets built around it. So I don't know if that helps explain where the guidelines sort of sit. Right now, we know you want to see those increases and new spending as considerations in the process, not as core tenets.
Okay, thank you very much. Nothing else? Okay, great. So we're going to ask for staff recommend that council return to the regular meeting. I'll ask for a mover. Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Adia Kelly, all in favor? Yeah, unanimous. Okay, so now we're going to go to item 10.1, adoption of delegation bylaw number 2467, amendment bylaw number 2532, 2025. So we're going to have a report from the corporate officer.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and Council. As you will recall, at the regular council meeting on October the 28th, Council gave first, second and third readings to the bylaw before you today. We are now considering the adoption of delegation bylaw number 2467, amendment bylaw number 2532, 2025. No formal presentation before you today. However, as corporate officer, I'm here to answer any further questions council may have about this bylaw. Staff recommendation is to adopt this bylaw and to also implement this framework immediately. Thank you for your time. The staff recommendation is that council adopt delegation bylaw number 2467, amendment bylaw number 2532, 2025.
Okay, do I have a mover? That's Councillor Hamilton and Councillor Shoesmith is the seconder. All in favor? That's unanimous. Okay, so 11.1, it's the appointment of Councillor Nixon as the City of Fernie's Regional District of East Kootenay Municipal Director during the mayor's absence. And that's another report from our corporate officer.
Thank you again, Deputy Mayor and Council. Again, no visual presentation for this item on the agenda. However, this item relates to representation for the municipality of the City of Fernie at the upcoming RDEK committee and board meetings on November the 13th and 14th. So tomorrow and Friday. Mayor Milligan is away. Our alternate director is Councillor McIsaac. However, he is also away. And while Councillor Nixon has offered to attend in his place, the RDEK have confirmed corporate officer to corporate officer that the city must formally appoint an alternate to the position. So we require a council resolution tonight for the appointment to be recognised. Staff are requesting that council formally appoint Councillor Nixon as the City of Fernie's Municipal Director to the RDEK board for the November 13 and 14 meetings, reinstating Mayor Milligan as the director on the board from December 2025 onward, and that the corporate officer provide notification of that appointment to the RDEK. Thank you.
Do I have a mover? Councillor Shoesmith, Councillor Hamilton, all in favor? Thank you. Unanimous. 11.2, the winter 2025 shuttle partnering agreement. We have a report from our CAO, Mr. Boranowski.
Thank you. Council, very straightforward report, very similar to last year. We have updated ridership statistics from Tourism Fernie and Tunnel 49. Staff are recommending that we endorse and execute the agreement to again operate the Winter Stoke Shuttle with Tunnel 49 as the operator. The agreement is constructed in a way that allows them to be the operator, allows us to ensure that we keep insurance and liability above board, and then they can partner with Tourism Fernie and other stakeholders to enhance or extend the service. As you know, the 3 buses that underpin the service were purchased through the Resort Development Strategy. The last resort development strategy. Included in this resort development strategy is a consideration to purchase 1 larger bus. But at present, Tourism Fernie and city staff would like to see how ride hailing advances. They're going to look at whether Uber, other ride hailing services are kind of taking hold in Fernie before we then consider the potential sale or trade-in of 2 of the vehicles to purchase 1 larger vehicle. And then finally, the one material change in the agreement that I would note is there is language such that if there's damage to one of the buses or mechanical failure that is not due to negligence or operator error over $5,000, that the parties agree to sit down and come to a mutually agreeable solution to either repair or decommission the buses. That is because they are now officially out of warranty period. And so just if there's over a $5,000 price tag for repairs, we're agreeing with the operator to just sit down and come to a mutually agreeable solution if there's a failure that's not due to operator error or negligence, as I said. With that, thank you. I'll take any questions you have.
Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. I think Mr. Boranowski answered part of my question that I had, because I did read that section and was a little bit unsure what the implications would be to the city or the municipal ratepayer. And just curious if there's any other potential liabilities on the municipality or the community. You know, should the service not be profitable, are we backstopping it financially in any way, shape, or form?
Thank you for that question. That's a distinction between how we've renewed our shuttle agreements as of, I think it's 3 or 2 years ago. We used to cover losses or retain profits. We now have agreed that in exchange for operating that service, the operator is entitled to either retain profits or must cover those costs if it runs a shortfall. And they, together with Tourism Fernie, work collaboratively to provide the ridership statistics, survey, like some anecdotal or qualitative feedback on the service, as well as then the financials.
Well, yeah, I think it's a great service. And as we can see with those numbers that's in the agenda package, the ridership is up, which means the revenues are up. So yeah, I think it's pretty exciting. With that, I guess we'll look to our corporate officer for the recommendation.
Thank you, Your Worship. The staff recommendation is that Council approve the partnering agreement with Tunnel 49 for the provision of a winter shuttle service for the 2025 to 2026 winter season, and that the Mayor and Corporate Officer be authorised to execute the agreement once the public notification requirements have been met.
I have a mover, Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Shoesmith, all in favor? Unanimous. Okay, great. We're moving along here. 11.3, development variance permit application number DVPA 616, 1292 8th Avenue, report from the Manager of Planning.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. Good evening. We'll just bring up the slideshow. It's very brief and hopefully a simple one to discuss. It's development variance permit number 616 for 1292 8th Avenue. This is probably our last one that we're doing like this. As you know, you don't see a whole lot of variances anymore with the delegation bylaw. And further, we recently adopted the development procedures and fees bylaw, which would change how we go about doing major variances with council. That being that we would, through the process, do the public notice before it comes to council. So council doesn't need to approve the application and then have 2 meetings to authorize issuance of the permit. So this is development variance permit number 616. It is falls under the category of major development variance permit, although there is a minor component to it as well. It's to vary the parcel coverage from 35% to 45.59%, that albeit the existing parcel coverage is 44.67. So the permitted parcel coverage in the zone is 35, but the home is already over parcel coverage. So they're asking for actually less than a 1% increase to what it currently exists. That technically requires a major variance, which is why it's coming forward tonight. The second element to the variance is to vary the sun deck projection from 1.3 meters into the setback to 1.78 meters into the setback. That portion can be delegated to staff, but because there was a major component, we're just bringing the whole variance forward to council. So as you can see here, there's some images of what's proposed. In the top left of the slide, it is a set of stairs with a roof going over another set of stairs going into the basement. They're proposing to remove the set of stairs going up to the deck and essentially building an extension to the deck that takes out the roof going over the basement steps. So very, very simple. Just again, the design of it is increasing the parcel coverage by under 1%, and that is what the variance ask is for tonight. So the recommendation is that staff approve the application and move forward to public notice for the variance.
Thank you, Mr. Similini. Any questions from council on this? Nothing? Okay, so I guess we'll, the recommendation was just read, so we need a mover. Councillor Shoesmith was really quick on the draw. Councillor Adia Kelly was seconder. All in favor? That's unanimous. Okay, 11.4, the OCP and zoning amendments for the fire hall. Report from the Manager of Planning again. Thank you, Mr. Similini.
Thank you, Worship. I will defer part of this presentation as well to CEO Boranowski. We're going to both speak to it. I think he will start, and then I will pick up with a little bit of information on the bylaws themselves.
Thank you, Derek. Yeah, the purpose of this report is twofold. One is to seek a resolution from council specifically on the required early and ongoing consultation. It's a long, clunky resolution, but it is one that ensures that we're in complete compliance with the Local Government Act. We're in full compliance with the Local Government Act before we move into readings on an OCP amendment and formal consideration of such. And then two is to present some information on the bylaw amendment or the draft amending bylaw that Mr. Similini will be bringing forward for first and second readings in the future. Go ahead. And so my role was to work with the team and legal counsel just to ensure that the process was in conformance with the Local Government Act. That act requires that council formally consider, before the consideration of the bylaw, who is impacted, determine how to consult them, what is an appropriate opportunity for engagement or consultation, and then confirm how that information comes back. Again, that needs to come before the readings, and it is in addition to the public hearing, which is the formal public hearing process that comes forward with the OCP amendment. Thank you. The scope of consultation is specific to the OCP amending bylaw or, say, a new official community plan. And so, although there has been early and extensive consultation on this project over the past number of years, it is not specific to the OCP amending bylaw that you will be considering in the future. And so what staff did is undertake a review of the consultation that we've done so far, the agencies required under the Local Government Act that need to be considered. We've listed those in the report, and then provided a recommendation to council based on the engagement and consultation and the process that is required to move forward. And so what we are recommending is that council consider the early consultation and the ongoing engagement that we have underway with the specific agencies listed in the report as there, that is ongoing consultation. And we will be communicating with them as well about OCP amending bylaws and other aspects of the project moving forward. But then specifically to determine that the general public is who should be consulted at this phase in terms of early consultation, that council feel it's appropriate a form on Let's Talk Fernie be published for a period of 10 days. That's sort of our standard basic online form consultation. Starting, and I've written tomorrow because my dates are a little confused. It is the 14th through the 24th. So starting Friday, running for 10 days, be accepted online, and of course, accepting written feedback at Fernie City Hall. And then that a summary of that feedback be provided to council on December 9th, when council can expect the draft OCP amending bylaw to come forward for its initial readings. Written into the resolution is additionally a tool that we would use to provide the input and make them available for inspection, the same way we make our annual report or our financial statements available for inspection at City Hall, or should council want some full text of feedback that it receives. I'm happy to take questions on that now, or we can hand it over to Mr. Similini, who will run you through a brief introduction of the actual draft OCP amendment.
I believe Councillor Adia Kelly has a question.
Thanks, Your Worship. I do. The 10 days, is that a statutory or is that something that we were able to decide?
That is something we were able to decide. Council could determine that a open house, a mail-in form, any form of consultation is appropriate. We chose to recommend, or we not just chose, we looked at what our general consistent practice is so that we're not giving short shrift to the consultation. We typically have online forms open for a period of about 10 days, and we typically also accept written feedback at City Hall.
Okay, thank you. Further, Your Worship, as our acting mayor mentioned earlier, we are having a town hall on the 26th. Would it make sense to extend it to that date? I'm just thinking, CAO, Let's Talk Fernie is not necessarily as user-friendly for some folks as it is for others. And when you say you're accepting written feedback, is that just they can handwrite a letter, or what does that look like?
Certainly, the intent with Let's Talk is to have a form that accepts full text written feedback and asks them to list their full name and community of residence, and that's it. So there's no cumbersome login required, and we are recommending also accepting handwritten feedback or typed and printed feedback, like written feedback in person. Certainly, my only caution is that the town hall is not a duly constituted meeting of council, and you may want to consider whether that is the topic you want discussed at that town hall or whether there's a breadth of topics that you want to address at that time.
Okay, fair. Thank you. One of the other questions that I had was, is there a reason we're not asking for a civic address, just the community of residents? Is it because of privacy?
Thank you. Yes, Manager Rhodes and I discussed pretty extensively what information we would need to be able to support council in understanding the general public's feedback. And I would assume that council would want to hear from the general public who lived either in or around Fernie and would be actually impacted by the change and the eventual project that would be built there. We're not asking for the actual street address because it has actually no impact on their input or on the value or weighting that we would give their input, whether they lived in one part of town or another, and it gives us an additional privacy headache that we have to deal with.
So we're not just necessarily restricting it to residents that are within our boundaries. It could be resident, say in the RD, who may feel impacted. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions in regards to the OCP amendment? Okay. Yeah, and I was curious about the what exactly that Let's Talk portion was going to look like, and was there going to be a checkbox like a yes or a no, or if it's just going to be all written? So I guess we'll see on Friday, or can you maybe give us a spoiler alert right now?
Yeah, if I can through to council, the information will be pretty specific to the OCP amendment bylaw, provide links to the Let's Talk Fernie compendium of all of the fire hall information, but it will be a very simple feedback form based on the draft OCP amending bylaw. Your worship, if I can ask for a 5-minute recess so we can troubleshoot microphones. Thank you. The mayor called for a 5-minute recess, please.
Words?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, so we just.
Georgia. Thank you. We had some technical issues there, so thanks for joining us back here. So I just had the question, what are we going to be asking our citizens? Is it going to be an open box or multiple choice, or just curious as to what the question will look like if we have that composed, because it's going to be launching this Friday, which I'm super excited about.
The question will be open text box, specifically asking people for their feedback on the draft OCP amending bylaw and requesting, as noted, their full name and community of residence. And it will provide just an overview of the bylaw. It's a specific early consultation on the bylaw, but we can, of course, link out to the consolidated consultation and reports that are in Let's Talk about the Fire Hall overall.
Awesome. Thank you. Mr. Similini, I think, did you want to, you're going to continue?
Thank you, Worship. I will. Just a quick briefing on what is contained in the OCP amendment bylaw, noting also that there will be a zoning bylaw coming forward as well. So interestingly enough, our OCP is really silent on fire and emergency services as a use and as a building in general. It really doesn't speak to it much at all. So the first step in the bylaw is to include Fernie Fire Hall as an institutional use, or as an important institutional use. That's section 9-B.9 of the bylaw. It lists several important institutional uses, and Fernie Fire Hall is not listed as one of them. So including that is pretty paramount to then recognizing it in the OCP. Then we have two schedules that we're amending. Schedule B are land use designations, and Schedule D are parks, trails, facilities, and open space network. Focusing on Schedule B, this again is a fairly interesting one in that we have institutional land on our land use map right now, but we don't have any vacant institutional land on our land use map. So our land use map speaks to those institutional uses that already exist. So regardless of the location of the fire hall in this case, we would have to do an OCP amendment to change whatever piece of land we have to institutional in order to move forward with a rezoning for it. Schedule D, the parks, trails, facilities, and open space network. So sorry, before I move on, there's a really brief peek at the area that we're looking at amending on Schedule B. So it's a portion of Prentice Park. You can see Prentice Park there in green, and then the proposed fire hall site is in gray. And the map for Schedule D is very similar to that. So Schedule D, what we would be looking at doing is actually taking that portion out of the park in the OCP and replacing it with a facility on our facilities map, being the Fernie Fire Hall. So those three amendments combined would then make the project OCP compliant, and we would be able to bring forward a zoning bylaw to rezone the property from parks and open space to institutional.
Okay, I think Councillor Hamilton had a question about that.
Thank you. So just to be abundantly clear, the first step is we don't have fire hall use anywhere in our OCP, so we need to update the OCP for that, correct?
That's correct. The fire hall is, or fire and emergency services is stated in the OCP in one section. It speaks to essentially it says that the fire and emergency services are all good in Fernie, which obviously we know need improvement. So that first amendment of recognizing fire hall as an institutional use under the institutional section then leads to a fire hall being allowed to be built in the institutional areas.
Thank you. And then secondly, we're solely proposing to change the use and designation for the footprint of the proposed location, nothing else to do with the park area around there.
Through to council, that's correct. So the footprint you see there is currently a draft, but we do have some line work that's a little more accurate that we'll bring forward to council. It is outlining the project area and nothing more.
Do you have more as well? Yeah. Or are we good?
That's all I have for
Okay.
the presentation, Your Worship.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
To council, procedurally, Mr. Similini noted that you will see rezoning coming following the OCP. Just to be clear on the process for that, you'll see an OCP report come forward, provided it receives first and second readings and moves through once you've done early and ongoing consultation. At that same meeting, we're anticipating you seeing the rezoning for first and second reading. Then there's a third reading and a public hearing, and then there's adoption of the OCP, and then you have third reading and adoption of the rezoning, which is in compliance with the now amended OCP. So it's not a whole OCP process and then starting all again as a whole rezoning process. We're being efficient with it, while also being very mindful of every check and balance and procedural requirement.
Excellent. Council, any other questions in regards to the Councillor Audie Kelly?
Thanks, Your Worship. CAO, can you just maybe outline what the public hearing process is like and how that works?
Certainly, for an OCP amending bylaw or an official community plan bylaw, a public hearing is a formal part of public feedback and consultation that occurs during the process following third reading. We, according to our council procedures bylaw, which our corporate officer is probably, prior to third reading, apologies, prior to third reading. And our council procedure bylaw sets out sort of the structure and how we come into a public hearing meeting, separate from a regular meeting or a special meeting or a committee. But what it allows for is specific comments on the bylaw in front of council from the public as like an official and formal piece of public input. Lavinia, do you have anything that you'd like to add on that?
If I may, CEO Baranowski, there's also similar to the early and ongoing consultation that was discussed. There also is a public input period or a public notice period of 10 days where we can take public input and bring it forward to council as well.
Thank you. The public notice triggers us collecting and bringing input back, but you will recall from the opening of each meeting when we do public participation, when a public hearing is then scheduled, we then have formal avenues to receive public input. So council then, through the corporation, receives input through the corporate officer and receives input and comment through the public hearing, but should, traditionally avoid going out and seeking and receiving public input ad hoc or outside of that formal process. So we'll cover that. We'll cover that in a bit more detail in the next report and before the public hearing as well.
Further? Yes.
Thanks, Your Worship. So just to clarify for folks who might be listening, this is a very transparent public process. There will be notice, there will be formal feedback taken, and anyone who wishes to can provide comment.
If I may, Your Worship, as well, it's worth noting that the OCP and the zoning bylaw both require a public hearing. However, the legislation does allow us to hold that public hearing at the same time. So we're not having two public hearings for the same project.
Awesome. That's great. Okay, so unless there's any other questions, I think we'll get somebody to read that really, really long staff recommendation. Not me.
Certainly. The staff recommendation is that pursuant to Section 475 of the Local Government Act, the Act, with regard to the proposed amendment to the official community plan and schedules as set out in the official community plan bylaw number 2231, amendment bylaw number 2535, the amendment, as attached to this report, and after specifically considering whether consultation is required with the entities enumerated in sections 475 to B of the Act, A, Council considers that prior to any public hearing being held regarding the amendment, there be an opportunity for early consultation with residents of Fernie by way of a comment form to be made available for a period of 10 business days from November 14 to November 24, 2025, with completed forms, including the name, municipality of residence, and input of the person completing the form to be submitted to the city, either through the city's Let's Talk Fernie website or by paper copy left at the front counter at City Hall. B, upon expiration of the above mentioned submission period, Staff are directed to prepare a summary of the input received for consideration by council and make comments available for viewing on request by any resident of Fernie at City Hall.
I have a mover, Councillor Hamilton. I have another mover, a seconder. Oh, Councillor Adia Kelly, call the vote. All in favor? Oh, sorry, Mr. Boranowski.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, thank you to our Director of Finance. I need to clarify and ask for an amendment from council. It says 10 business days from November 14th, 2025 to November 24th. If I could recommend to council that you move an amendment and adopt an amendment, my recommendation would be to remove the word business from the resolution. Then we're explicitly clear that it is 10 days rather than 10 business days. My apologies for that oversight.
Do I have a mover on the amendment?
I'll move the amendment.
Okay, Councillor Shoesmith, Councillor Adia Kelly, seconder. All in favor of the amendment? Unanimous. And then all in favor of the original, the main motion as amended, unless you want to say it again. No. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, great. Moving right along here, 11.5 modification of to Fire Hall pre-construction services contract to complete detailed design report from the Director of Engineering and Public Works, which is Mrs. Weir. I'm feeling that in this we are a very skeleton crew here today. There's only 4 of us, and not to disappoint Ms. Weir. I was wondering if we should maybe table this to the next meeting when we can have more people here to talk about this. Discussion, Councillor Adia Kelly.
I support you there, Your Worship. I think that's prudent. You know, we've also just been very clear and transparent with the public about asking for feedback. So I think it would behoove us to maybe have a more fulsome panel.
Anyone else? Weigh in on this? Councillor Hamilton?
I have no opposition to waiting. I do, though, however, have a question of what that does to our timeline as far as the overall scope of the project and contractual obligations that might be in play.
Through to council, there are no contractual obligations that would be impacted, but we are midstream and already underway with the work to a point, and we have reached the point where we've done as much as we can without this direction to proceed. So it will be a delay of 2 weeks to the project schedule, and then also that request for input about the solar panels consideration noted another 2-week delay for the redesign efforts for that. So that would be further 2 weeks on top of the 2 weeks of this delay. So I would note it's not immaterial to the project. We are working on a tight timeline to get to construction in the spring.
Councillor Shoesmith.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Nixon. Funnily enough, I'm sure this will shock nobody, not a fan of the direction this project has taken. However, given that that's the direction it is undergoing, of course, notwithstanding whatever legal proceedings may happen, I definitely do not think we serve the taxpayers well by delaying or, what's the word? Not delaying, that's the wrong word. I don't think that it is a very good thing to have work start and stop, or, you know, have people sitting around waiting on funding to proceed. I mean, that's, as a contractor myself, there's nothing worse than having to stop and go do something else and then come back. It's always expensive. So I do have some misgivings about the idea of pushing this back. However, in light of the light table that we have tonight, guess I'll go along with that, I suppose.
Councillor Hamilton.
I mean, in support of what Councillor Shoesmith is saying, we were all elected to make decisions, not all of them easy. All of our councillor members have the opportunity to be here. Some of them have conflicting issues, which granted they're not able to make it, but is that something that we should be delaying as a result of delaying this major project because of other personal issues that other individuals are facing? What is our long-term risk to this project? I mean, a month in the grand scheme of things maybe isn't a big deal, but at the same time, we need to keep the ball rolling. So.
Councillor Adi Kelly.
Just a couple more questions for Director Weir. So it would delay the project, let's say, a month for the two components. What would be the financial impact of a month-long delay? Can you give us a ballpark idea, Director?
Acting Mayor through to Council, I cannot estimate the financial impact without looking specifically at the documents. I would have the information that shows the cost of construction per month, but essentially the current construction schedule has construction starting in the spring and obviously doing as much as we can in the better building season, getting the facility to the best point possible before winter, which requires additional costs of, heating and hoarding concrete and protecting the facility. So there certainly would be a push to get as much done in the 2026 construction season as possible and start as early as possible. And if I may add one more note, I have already delayed the contractor a couple weeks because it takes me a few weeks to get this report on a council agenda.
Okay, so I'm getting the impression that we should hear the report and we should go forward at this point. So I'm sorry to delay you, Ms. Weir, with your with that little bit, but yes, let's continue on. Let's forge through.
Okay. As mentioned, I am here to seek council's endorsement on a modification to the project plan to complete the detailed design of the city's fire hall. So a design build contract for the city's new fire hall was awarded to Chandos Construction LP for $236,660 back in March 2025. The previously awarded scope included the 4 elements listed on your screen. The third step, design development to 70%, is nearing completion, and the final revisions to the deliverables are underway. Project staff have been meeting with our design build contractor weekly through August, September, October, developing the details of what will be in each room, updating our decision log and risk register as design and construction risks are mitigated or new ones are uncovered. Refining our detailed list of inclusions in the construction contract and investigating further trade-offs and cost reduction strategies, and drafting the conditions of a construction contract. The Class B cost estimate based on the refined design shows construction cost remains in line with the previously endorsed project budget. The fourth and final piece of the scope is the component of work that has not commenced and for which we are recommending that we take a updated approach. So the rationale for the change in this project plan, the reason the existing pre-construction services contract was scoped to stop the design process at 70% was due to the expected requirement for a referendum to secure the project funding when the project plan was put in place last November 2024. So at the outset of this process, we wanted to leverage the skills of a talented design build team to progress the project to a point where we had a satisfactory level of confidence in the cost, while ensuring that the funds required to advance the project all the way to 100% weren't expended should the construction funding not have been secured. With the construction funding now secured, staff recommend that prior to negotiating the construction contract, we complete the design of the fire hall to 100%. The most significant advantage of this approach is that we are reducing the contingency that we would carry on the contract, the construction contract. So if you established it at 70% complete design, you would carry a 10% contingency. And if we establish it at 100% complete design, we're able to further reduce that contingency to 5%. And for context, on a $14 million build, 5% is $700,000. So it represents a significant amount of money that isn't held in waiting to address risk. Additional advantages to this approach are that the drawings will be much more developed and coordinated, and Chandos can tender the 100% design to their sub-trades, which means that our builder carries less risk because they already have pricing in place from all of their sub-trades. The design is completed sooner, so it allows for earlier procurement of long lead time items and potentially earlier mobilization if the weather allows. And the design team would continue with the established pace we've been working at. And the major thing to underscore is that there is no additional cost to the project of resequencing this component. We're simply moving fees that we would have paid in the second phase of the contract into the first phase of the contract. And just for further clarity, the Class C cost estimate that formed the project budget that I presented to council in July had $520,000 of design fees in the phase 2 contract. So what this does is moves the $260,000 out of that $520,000 and initiates it now. So the scope broadly includes further refinement of the design, like I mentioned, preparing the issued for tender drawings so that Chandos can tender their sub-trades and get those pricing in place, refining the energy model, incorporating all final comments into the design. And then once this work is complete, we go back to that same step that was proposed in phase 1, which is reviewing that owner's statement of requirements to ensure everything we want is in there, and negotiating the construction contract of a lump sum. There has been mention from council about an interest in building the fire hall so solar panels may be installed on the roof in the future. And we did review this option with our design consultants, and they did provide us some considerations for this. So the structural engineers indicated that the panels could increase the loading on the roof, which has potential impacts to the roof deck, roof beams, and truss design that they've drafted to 70% thus far. And so if council would like to include this element in the project, we have some recommended numbers of what that might cost. This element hasn't been included in the project to date because we have really been focusing on cost containment, and are happy to say that through the refinement of the design, we've added lots of features that were maybe not considered at the outset, or things that the fire department saw as necessary, and we haven't had to increase any cost for the project budget because that we've looked for trade-offs and ways to contain that cost. So that's the reason it wasn't included. But staff are seeking direction if council wishes to include this. It likely could be absorbed in the remaining contingency of the project, the design work, not the installation of the panels. But we're always trying to reserve our contingency, and we're trying to deliver a project that's under budget, not use every penny of the budget.
Thank you, Ms. Weir. Just a question about in the staff report, it says 3,000, and then in that last slide, it says $10,000 for additional structural and electrical design. Is that is that an updated number, or?
Good question. The reason is that I wasn't able to get the cost from the electrical engineer, and so I just put an order of magnitude in there. Could be anywhere 5, 6, 7, 10. I just put a order of magnitude number in for the electrical engineering redo. Yeah, so this report is just provided to bring further information to council on a recommended modification to the project plan, which most efficiently progresses towards the construction of a new fire hall. Staff are recommending that council endorse the modification to advance the design from 70 to 100% prior to negotiating a construction contract. And this modification reduces risk and project contingency and results in no additional expenditure of funds on the design that would not have been already spent in phase 2 of the contract. And as we mentioned, we are still ambitiously working towards early as possible spring 2026 construction start.
Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. I realize I may have interrupted the end of your, no, okay. I was the one who asked for the solar panels to be, that cost to be estimated, brought forward. I think it's really important that we add this, structural component to the building. We need to remember that we are looking at a generational building, something that is going to last for 50 plus years. We have no idea what the future might bring. I'm not asking at this stage that we consider adding solar panels. I'm just suggesting that we ensure that this building is solar panel ready so that in the future, should we have a grant opportunity, should prices come down, who knows what the future might bring, but at least this building will be ready to accept them in a cost-effective manner. The cost to build the building ready now is going to be significantly less than it will be to retrofit it in 5, 10, 20 years, whatever that timeframe looks like. And on the whole, like $30,000 on a $12 to $16 million build is less than 0.25%. So just, you know, as a matter of scale and scope, we need to ensure that we're doing the best we can for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. Anyone else want to weigh in? Councillor Schuster.
Thank you, Your Temporariness, Mayor Nixon. To be clear, we're not at this time voting on the use of solar panels or no solar panels. This is simply voting on funding to finish the design as it stands, yes?
If I can ask the corporate officer, I don't believe you have an actual motion on the table yet. I think you've received a presentation. If you were to move a motion that solar panel readiness be included in the design, that could then be debated, then be voted upon, and then funding the remaining could then be moved, seconded, and debated and voted.
Okay. I'll weigh in on the solar panel. Well, actually, Councillor Hamilton.
Apologies. Procedurally, I should have started with asking for a motion. And I would like to motion that we do include solar panel readiness as part of the design component.
Do I have a seconder on that? Can it be me? Well, I guess I'll second that. Discussion.
I feel the return on that investment is marginal and won't support that motion as stands.
Okay. I'll just weigh in. You know what? I'm a huge proponent of future-proofing this building, so I'm going to vote yes for this. I think we have to have these solar panels on here. We're not putting them on. We're just making it ready for those. Like Councillor Hamilton says, we're building something that's supposed to last 50 plus years, and it makes no sense to close the doors on renewables. Battery backup or electrical apparatus that could charge fire trucks or whatever. If you want to ask me why, I was just like, it's going to be cheaper than retrofitting, like Councillor Hamilton says. It adds resilience. If BC has another drought year and it has to import power like we did last year and the year before, $1.3 billion worth of energy that was imported into the province. and it aligns with our OCP green building direction. And it keeps us eligible for future grants. So that's the reason why I'm going to vote in favor of this. Councillor Shoesmith.
Thank you, Temporary Mayor Nixon. If I may direct a question through the chair to staff, what sort of nuts and bolts, we're not talking design end, but technical end, work will this require if we were to prepare this building to have solar panels, in terms of wiring, structure, what have you?
Acting Mayor through to Councillor Shoesmith. My understanding is that it's pretty straightforward in terms of the structural exercise of ensuring the already existing trusses and roof structure are capable of bearing those additional loads. And then I should have got the further details on what the electrical engineer specifically needed to do, but I understand that it was to do with ensuring that the wiring had the appropriate loading capabilities, like from the service that we are going to be, we're requesting a new service from BC Hydro. So he sizes the loads of the facility on that service. And so my understanding it is that it's ensuring the service design that we're getting from the road also is capable of handling those loads. And
Councillor
conduit.
Adia Kelly.
Thanks, Your Temporary Worshipness. Director, does it change the design of the building in any major way now? Because you're 70% complete. So do we have to change the roof at all, or would we just be, I can't think of a better word, bolstering the roof to hold weight?
No material change in the design or look of the facility, just the sizing of the components.
Councillor Shoesmith.
Thank you, Your Worship. My concern around the cost is less structural and less about through penetrations and membranes and all that, more mechanically. I know the system being designed to absorb power and disperse it is far more complicated and expensive than just simply one that takes power from the grid and uses it. That was more my concern as opposed to the structural increase in costs.
Yeah, and I have a couple of arrays that I own, and one of them has these micro inverters that there's no huge inverters. They're just it's really simple material now, and with technology in future years, we're going to see an even better systems. So I think that by putting in the conduit, by putting in the trusses, I think it's the way to go for our community and for Pari's future. Like in 50 years, this building is going to be, still standing. Yeah, so I guess we have, okay, so a little bit more and then we'll call the vote. Councillor Shoesmith and then Councillor Adia Kelly.
Thank you, Acting Worship Nixon. So were we to proceed, we would be out the design costs, which fits in our contingency, out the building costs of adding some, probably some supports and what have you, and more complication in the electrical room, although allegedly not a ton. And then further down the road, somebody would be paying the bill for the solar panels. And my question to staff, and I apologize to put them on the spot through your worship to staff, is what order of magnitude of costs roughly would this see us having footed, all said and done, with the solar panels installed later?
Acting Mayor through to Councillor Shoesmith. The estimate that was in the report was in the low hundreds of thousands in terms of purchasing the panels. And as I mentioned in the report, there are solar designers that are willing to do a design for you for free and do the calculations on how much energy you would produce and how much the system would cost to install. We have not engaged a solar provider to do that design work for us. So that cost is the estimated install cost, but it doesn't speak to any potential cost savings or what power might not be having to be paid for in the future.
Councillor Adia Kelly.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just in reference, you had mentioned grants. So right now, what we would be looking at, based on the numbers in the report, would it be 35K or would it be the 28? I'm just a little unsure there.
Mayor, through to Councillor Adia Kelly, it's not a set number at this time. I can't commit to the number. It's more of an order of magnitude in that range of engineering fees and building costs. So I don't have the final pricing.
Mr. Boronowski.
Thank you. Through to council, this contract award for the design phase is at the level where council authorization is required. The addition of solar power can be directed by council and then authorized at the director or CAO level because of the order of magnitude of the cost. Within our purchasing policy, it doesn't hit a threshold of needing to come back to council to be processed. Just for your reference, because it doesn't require a full costing and then another report to come back to council to then reconsider to then award. That would be the due diligence that we do at the staff level before awarding that scope change.
Okay, so we have an amendment, or we have a motion on the floor. And I guess we'll call the vote on this. So all in favor? And opposed? Okay, so we have a tie. So what happens in the event of a tie?
We have 2 in favor, 2 opposed. There is no majority in favor, therefore the motion fails.
Okay. Now we go on to the regular motion. Yeah, okay, so for the next staff recommendation.
Staff recommendation is that council approve the expenditure of $260,520 of budgeted funds for the Fire Hall project to extend the city's current pre-construction services contract with Chandos Construction LP, allowing the detailed design of the Fire Hall to move forward from the 70% design stage to the 100% final design stage, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the contract.
Okay, do I have a mover? Councillor Hamilton? Councillor Shoesmith, you're going to talk now?
I'll second that. But
Okay, you're
I
going
would
to
like
second
to
that?
speak.
Okay, yep. Discussion, please.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Nixon. I'm, as people know, not happy with the overall scope, scale, and location of this project. Not a big fan at all. And I'm aware that there are pending things that may or may not influence the future of this. I'm going to make myself no friends, make everybody really upset at me, but I am not leaning towards voting this down because, firstly, that would not change anything, as it would simply get voted back in later and we would proceed. It would merely be a speed bump and a massive expense and inconvenience for our contractors. I, as a contractor, absolutely despise when you've got a workflow and you're working and then somebody, need you to stop, come back in a month. That's never smooth or good or fair. I don't like treating people that way. And my vote for this is a vote to continue with the agreements that this council has already voted for as they stand, and not to cause expense to the taxpayer for, in the end, no change or gain. And I want to make that point clear that I don't think voting against this would ultimately change the direction here, but it would incur a cost to the taxpayer, which I don't wish to do.
Okay, Councillor Adia Kelly.
Thanks, Your Worship. We talked about all the advantages of moving this up to this phase because we're being clear that we're really not expending more money. We're just moving up the allotment of money that's already been budgeted. Just in the interest of transparency, is there any risk to doing this? Because I read through the report and I honestly, I was like, well, these are great advantages. Are there risks?
Acting Mayor through to Councillor Adia Kelly. No, we don't see any risks with this. The whole intention of this is to mitigate known risk and not incur additional risk.
Councillor Sue Smith.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Nixon. Should we continue proceeding with the pre-construction stuff and receive some sort of, legal order or what have you, how much of this pre-construction work would be salvageable if we had to reconsider locations?
Through to council, a fair percentage of it, like we discussed at the meeting in August, a lot of the site due diligence work was the work that would need to be repeated should you choose to utilize a design at a different location or design a facility at a different location. And then I can't have the number for you, but a portion of the work would need to be redone in terms of all the structural and foundation work is based on the soils and but, we have spent a lot of time on things that would still stand in terms of sizing rooms and finishings in rooms and all that kind of stuff. So I can't tell you what percent of would be a redo at this point.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, fantastic. It's been a long time coming, for sure. Item 15, we have reports from council members. And since we have a lot of time, we have until 10 o'clock. Councillor Shoesmith, you want to start?
Thank you, Acting Mayor Nixon. Going back to the awards that we were all at, that was a lovely thing. But I would like to call some attention to the town to a different awards ceremony that happened that night. Typically, for some strange reason, I usually wind up triple booked for the business awards, and the Lions typically also have their set of volunteer appreciation things on the same night, as luck would have it. And I would just like to say that, at the same night, there was another big packed room full of great pillars of the community, people who work hard and pay their way, and then with their spare time, contribute mightily to the community, running many of your local events and doing a lot of the little things that often go unnoticed. So I thought I would just call attention to the fact that although they get a little less PR, there is a big crowd of very, very good citizens out there, and I'd like to thank them. Thank you. That's all I had.
Councillor Adia Kelly.
Thanks, Your Worship, and apologies to folks because I'm probably forgetting things because it's been quite a while since we've done this. But the awards gala definitely was a really big highlight, and congratulations to all of the nominees and recipients, including our Trails Alliance, who is here at our meeting tonight and has stuck it through. Thanks, Mel. And the business banter and beer at the ski base, I thought was excellent. The chamber presented the results of their business walk, and that information's on their website. And I really encourage actually folks in town to take a look at that, because our businesses in town impact our lives, our quality of life as well. I attended a tourism board meeting. Folks at the DMO, they're just doing an excellent job. They continue to promote Fernie. Shoulder seasons are they're shrinking over time. Spring was a little bit slower, but some of the accommodators noted that they are getting more requests for spring bookings again, which compared to last spring was a little quieter. So that's really good news. They continue to work on several projects promoting Fernie and coming here. Council cafes. I had to miss the last one, but I was at previous ones, and I really would like to thank the public. And I do want to point out that there are quite a lot of opportunities to engage with council, and I sort of want to give a plug to people to, as our CFO mentioned, our budget open houses are really, I'm going to say it, Your Worship, poorly attended. And it is one of the things that impacts your life in a major way. The livability of the community, the cost to your pocket, all of those things. So folks talk about transparency. Well, take advantage of the opportunities then, please. Please do so, because there is a personal responsibility element of engaging. So enough lecturing. OCP is ongoing. We've had a few task force meetings. I can't overemphasize the importance of this to the community. This is a guiding document that is going to cover probably at least the next decade. So again, pay attention to the OCP process, come out, give your feedback, please, because now's the time, not later. Now is the time. I also want to give a plug for our council town hall that is coming up on the 26th. It's an opportunity to come before council and not be restricted by an agenda. Come and speak to us. Come out, tell us how you're feeling, tell us what you're thinking. We actually want to hear it. We all ran for this position because we love our community and want to serve it. So please come out and tell us how you feel about things. And thanks, Your Worship.
Excellent. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. I'll just kind of riff off of what Councillor Adia Kelly was saying there for a second with regards to onus being on the public to inform themselves. We have a community newsletter that the city issues, and I'm not sure what the total subscriber count is now, but last time I heard it was less than 100 people. So stop relying on gossip groups and social media algorithms to actually inform yourself, and go to the city website, sign up and get the news directly in your inbox. Off my soapbox for now. I've been going back through my book trying to think when the last report was. It's been a while, and so I'm just going to go over the very high highlights. Obviously, we haven't had a council report since UBCM, I don't think. So UBCM was great. Every year I go, I am shocked and awed by the depth and breadth of conversations we have, the people you meet in the hallways, the minister meetings and staff meetings that we're able to have, and both formal and informal. Thanksgiving at the barn also happened since our last report. The Fernie District Arts Council's 35-year anniversary celebration, which was fantastic. As mentioned, the Chamber Awards, also our youth councillor interviews, and congratulations to Ms. Parmar on getting our youth councillor for the next year. I've also been participating in a number of other opportunities afforded to municipal councillors, elected officials. Attended a conversation with Catherine McKenna about how we deal with entrenched interests in our communities and future-proof them for climate resiliency. Attended another climate caucus based one around misinformation and disinformation that is spreading in our communities. How elected officials can work together to dispel some of that misinformation and combat the disinformation. There was also a session with Minister Ma and Minister Anderson on the UBCM Infrastructure Projects Act and how to look at projects to support getting them moved through the new provincial frameworks. And lastly, this past weekend was extremely busy. Everything seemed to be happening on Saturday. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get everywhere, but I was able to attend, get my skis and boots and garage cleared out to get to the ski swap. Congratulations to Fernie Alpine ski team. Word on the street is it was arguably the busiest ski swap ever, with lineups out the door and down the street and around the corner. I attended the Elk Valley Snow Avalanche Workshop, the EVSA day at the high school. Fantastic information, great review of a number of case studies, some with not so happy endings, some with some very fortunate endings. And it was just a really good early season reminder for anybody and everybody who recreates in the mountains in the winter of the risks and dangers of avalanches and weather and search and rescue implications and all of that. So if that is your fun times in the winter, definitely go out and make sure you're informed and educated. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Yeah, that was quite a bit. I don't want to put our youth counselor on the spot. This is the way that we do a little report every, when we can. And so the next meeting or the meeting after, when you have some stuff to report, it would be great to hear from you as well. As for myself, so many things. Being Nick is really hard. There's a lot of stuff that guy does. And I had Council Cafe last Monday. We had a few people that showed up for that. I did some ribbon cutting, or I got the owners of the new, the revitalized Polar Peak. They used the big scissors and they were able to do the ribbon cutting on Saturday morning, which was fantastic. And then what else happened that day? Many things. I had the privilege to represent the city at the Fernie Secondary School on Monday for their celebration, and congrats to all those students. I shouldn't say congrats, but I was like, the students and staff did such a remarkable job. Miss Weber also coordinated, and I was very, very impressed. I think I've been to many at the high school, and I think that one knocked it out of the park. Councillor Ramadas also gave a speech, and that was really thought-provoking and well done. So kudos to him, even though he's not here. I also want to thank Jennifer Cronin for her hard work, for putting together another great ceremony at the cenotaph yesterday. Always well attended, even when it's snow up to the knees. But with the mild weather yesterday, I think we might have had a record attendance, but I'm not sure. It was another special day for Fernie and our recognition of, of our freedom and the veterans who sacrificed their lives for that freedom. Later this week, tomorrow I head to Cranbrook for the regional district meetings on Thursday and Friday. And those are quite intensive, the agenda packages on that. So anyways, thanks everyone for tuning in. I think that's pretty much all I have. Mark your calendars for this Monday, another Council Cafe that happens on the 1st and the 3rd. Sign up for that newsletter. Really, I mean, I think we're at 160, but I'm not positive. And come to our next town hall on Wednesday, November 26th. So that's it, tuning out. Thanks very much for tuning in. Bye-bye.